All right, so we're going to do a practice this evening all about the lower back, because it's really common in pregnancy to have some lower back pain, and actually pretty much everyone who's pregnant at some point does feel the lower back, and there's a lot going on in this area. You know, we've got this a huge weight on the front of our body, and it will deepen those curves in the lumbar spine, and it will put pressure on all the other muscles, the muscles that come up and down the sides of our body that attach to our pelvis and to our spine. There's sort of kind of big muscles that come down like this called the quadratus lumborum. They get quite tight. Sometimes releasing them can help, or even strengthening them. Also, just engaging our erectus abdominis, so these muscles that run down the front of our abs, a little bit. We're not going to do any core work where we kind of sit up or crunch in pregnancy, but we do want to just feel that those muscles are still supporting us a little bit. So just kind of feeling that lift of baby to spine, and engaging the transverse abdominals, which are the ones that kind of wrap around the sides as well, low down, to just create that sling of muscle that supports baby. And it is about posture, and it's difficult when you're tired to maintain good posture. All you want to do is kind of slump, but if you possibly can, just thinking about lengthening the tail and growing up tall through the crown would just support a little bit more that lower back and your shoulders and things. So we'll do a little bit of work on that today, a bit of releasing, a bit of strengthening, and we'll see if we can feel a little bit better. So if you come and sit, pop something under your sitting bones so you've got a little lift, and come to any comfortable position with your legs. So lightly crossed, loosely crossed. You can cross them more at the shins, which might feel a bit more comfortable in your pelvis, but if it feels nice for you to have your sort of heels in a line and the knees more open, that's also quite a nice position, but everybody's different. Just see what feels good. Have a little wriggle from sitting bone to sitting bone. Just moving the weights around. And then see if you can come into the center of both of your sitting bones. So the weight's nice and evenly balanced. Feel as if you're hugging baby gently in towards the spine with the abdominal muscles. Just drawing in a little, supporting baby, and a sense of growing up tall through the crown of the head. And we're not trying to force this position, so it's not a really strong kind of upright position. It's just that feeling of gently lengthening and gently drawing in. Let the eyes close if they're not already closed. And just take a moment to tune into your body and how it feels. If it feels good for you to put a hand on your belly, just connecting with baby or babies. Noticing your breath, breathing into your belly and around your baby. And something that does also become quite difficult in pregnancy is breathing deep. So you may notice as you inhale, your belly can expand and soften a little bit, but also see if you can bring in those side ribs. So you get this lower down expansion around the rib cage. The more those ribs can move, the easier it will be to breathe. And just start to deepen the inhale and lengthen the exhale. And if you like, you can bring in the golden thread breath. So on your exhale, making a little space between the lips and blowing out a very gentle, steady stream of air. So it's just like you're blowing out a candle flame, or flickering, sorry, a candle flame in front of your lips without quite blowing it out. So we just want that steady thread of breath. Okay, let's have our hands resting on our legs, maybe on our knees if we can easily reach. And just start to rock forwards and backwards a little bit across your sitting bones from front to back. You're taking your pelvis into a posterior tilt and then an anterior tilt. Just really gentle, really mindful of how your back feels, how much space you've got to move. It could be a very small movement. And think about that pelvis being the thing that's moving. So it's tipping forwards, you're rolling to the front of the sitting bones, and it's tipping backwards and you're rolling to the back. Breathe in as you tip forwards, try that. Breathe out as you bring back. That would probably be easier or make more sense. And if you like, and if that feels okay, you can start to bring that movement up a little higher. So maybe bringing in more of the lower back and the belly, feeling that rippling, rocking feeling rising up, maybe bringing in the ribs and the chest, bringing in the shoulders. And just seeing how much the body wants to move today. And if you want to keep it smaller and just like a tiny tilt forwards and backwards, that's equally really, really useful for your body and your back. Just listen to your body. And these are really good things to do if you've been sitting for a while or you've been standing for a while. Just a few pelvic tilts to free up the low back. Okay, slow it down. Bring it back into the center and just feel like your tailbone is lengthening a little bit down. There's just a very slight drop through the tail, and you'll notice that the belly moves in a fraction towards you rather than having the belly dropping forwards. We're just sending the tailbone further down. Okay, let's bring our hands to our heart space. Take a nice deep breath in, circle the arms overhead. Interlace the hands, turn the palms away, and just take a moment to reach up and lengthen through the side bodies. Just feeling some length and space in your waist and the sides of your ribs. And I quite like a little wriggle here. So it's almost like you're pressing one side of your rib cage out to the side and then the other side out, and just kind of wriggling a little bit side to side and stretching into the side waist. And there's no right and wrong here, just like kind of listen to your body or that what feels good. Okay, come back into the center, stretching the arms, releasing the hands, we circle them behind us, land the fingertips on the floor behind you, turn the fingertips away and the thumbs forward, and just take a moment to lift the chest, squeeze the shoulder blades together and lift the gaze if that feels okay. Open the front body. And then slowly come back up to sit tall. Let's stretch our legs out long in front of us. We'll slide the right leg in so the foot's flat to the floor. If you've got room, step it up and over. So the foot can be a bit further away from you if your belly's quite big, or it can be a bit closer in. And we're going to do a twist, but we're going to do an open version of the twist. So right hand just holding onto the right knee. Left arm's going to sweep around behind you and find the floor so that you're twisting towards the open side. You can bring this right arm on the inside of the knee and just gently use that to help you find rotation in the upper back. And see how that feels. And just look to the side and think about lifting up as you rotate. Finding a little bit of space. And then releasing. Again, we're going to lean back on our hands. We're going to keep this right foot on top of the left thigh and slide the left foot in a little bit. So we're in this kind of seated pigeon variation. And just depending on how it feels, you can bring that left foot in closer or you can take it further away. But just have a little sense of relaxing the right knee away. And finding a little bit of openness in that right hip, maybe the outer part of your right leg. Soften the elbows, lift the chest. And then we're going to lengthen that left leg along the floor, right leg out long too, and swap sides, sliding the left foot in, step it over the right leg. Again, our left hand is going to be on the left knee. Our right arm around behind us, fingertips to the floor and sit up nice and tall. And you can always bring that left arm on the inside of the knee if it feels good, if it feels helpful, or just hold on gently. Find some rotation in the chest. Breathing deep. And then come back to center nice and slowly. Hands behind you to lean back and bend the right knee in a bit. Foot flat to the floor. Coming into that pigeon sign legs on the other side. I like a little bit of movement in this one. You know, you can have a little rock if it feels good, or you can just keep it still. Keeping the chest lifted, pressing a little into the hands. The muscles of the hips have quite a strong correlation to the muscles in the back and the shape of the back. So sometimes releasing the hips can help with back pain as well. Okay, we'll slide that right leg out long. We'll take the left leg out and we'll widen our legs a little bit. Now we're not looking for super duper wide. If you've got any pelvic girdle pain, just be really mindful of keeping them a bit more narrow. Okay, let's interlace our hands by our heart. Bring the base of the hands together, making a little fist. And then we're going to stir around from one foot towards the other foot and back through the center. So just take your time, see how it feels. And just go as far as your body feels comfortable with today. Remember, in pregnancy, we're not looking for a deep stretch. We're just looking to mobilize and warm up and create that kind of feedback from the body to the brain. And just stirring around. And you may find you get a little bit of a hamstring stretch as you come over the leg. Okay, let's go back the other way. This is quite a nice one for the hips as well. Backs of the legs. Okay, bring it back into the middle. Sit nice and tall. We're going to stretch the arms out wide. Take a nice big breath in. As we exhale, right hand comes down, reach up and over with the left. Inhale, rising back to center. Exhaling over to the right. Inhale, rise. And just take your time to move between those 2 points nice and slowly and mindfully. And really, it's your practice, so you can go as far or as fast or as slow or as gentle as you like. See if you can really find the end of the exhale and the top of the inhale. So you're not rushing the breaths. So what I mean by that is when you breathe out, just let that breath go completely before you come back up. Make sure you finish on one to the left. Then rising back up to center. We're going to bend the knees and bring the soles of the feet together in this Baddha Konasana or bound angle or butterfly pose. And we're not looking to have the heels super close. We want a bit of space between our pubic bone and our heels, so whatever feels comfortable. And then sliding your hands down the legs, just round the spine and let yourself relax over this position as much as feels good. So obviously, depending on bump, you might not be able to go very far. Just allow your spine to round and soften. And see if you can relax and breathe as well. Slowly rising all the way back up. And then one more time we'll go in, but this time in straight spine. So hinging more from the hips to come forwards and keeping your gaze and your chest a little bit more lifted. Just see how that feels. You might find that stretching a slightly different place in the hips or the back. And just breathing wherever you are. And and rising all the way back up. Lovely. Let's come over to all fours. So just bring the legs over to one side, sweep them around, and clear your space a little bit. Knees a bit wider than the hips, wrists under shoulders, spread those fingers nice and wide. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, scoop the tailbone underneath, press the ground away and really round the spine. As you inhale, come back through center, keeping the belly lifting towards the spine. And so we're not dipping in the low back, but if you can, comfortably lift the gaze a little bit and the chest a little bit. We get a bit of an extension in the upper back, but not much in the low back, and then rounding again into cat. Inhaling through center, soften the elbows, lift the chest. Exhaling to round. Inhaling through center. This time as you round into cat, so come on into cat, we're going to come up onto fingertips and make little cupcake hands, which can actually just feel like you're getting a bit more space. And when you're in your cat, just try wriggling your bottom a little bit from side to side. So you're scooping under with your pelvis, and you're also kind of wriggling it from side to side. Okay, slow that down, come back into the center, separate the knees a bit wider, sit back into child's pose for a few breaths. So you can bring something in underneath your chest to support you, or something between your sitting bones and your heels if your knees are feeling a bit sore. And just relaxing as much as possible. So this, for me, was really nice on my lower back in pregnancy because of just opening the hips a little bit more, and I could really feel the stretch here. So if you do feel this in your low back and it feels like it's a nice stretch, see if you can breathe into that space. So wherever you feel it, can you direct the breath? Almost like you could let the breath travel there and sort of massage the tissues and massage the muscles and the ligaments. This is a really good place to rest in labor as well. In between contractions, if you can rest, maybe over a ball or over a chair or like this, if it feels comfortable. Okay, we're slowly going to bring ourselves back onto all fours. So bring the hands in, push the ground away, slide any props out the way, and come over onto hands and knees. So I'll just turn to face the camera so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take, actually I'll do that in a minute. We're going to take the right leg back behind us, tuck the toes under. Think about drawing baby to spine and pushing the ground away, and then lift that right leg up to hip height. So Beth, just see how that is. If it's too much on your pelvis, you keep that right foot down on the floor rather than lifting it up, and you can do the arm instead of taking the leg up. So if everybody's okay with picking the leg up, and pick the leg up off the floor, hug baby to spine, and then maybe extend the opposite arm in front. See how that feels. Take a breath. Then as you exhale, we're drawing everything back to the center. Place the knee down, place the hand down. So sliding the left foot back, toes tucking under. Hug baby to spine, push the ground away, and then lifting that leg, maybe, if that feels okay, to hip height, and the opposite arm to shoulder height. So all of these add-ons are all just options. You could keep both hands down, you could keep the toe on the floor. So just modify, slide it back in. And then we're just going to go from side to side. So stretching one leg and one arm, breathing in, hugging baby in and up, and then exhaling back to center. So breathing in as you go away, breathing out back in. And see if you can make this as smooth as possible and really reduce any wobbling that happens in the middle as you swap sides. So can you really gently change sides? There's not too much wiggling about as you place the hand and the knee back down. And this is really good core work in pregnancy. and not in pregnancy, just generally, but it's really, really safe one and a really good one you can do, which might help support the back a little bit more. Do a couple more. Obviously stop at any point if you've had enough. Let's make sure you've done even sides. Take your knees a little bit wider, and we're going to come into puppy pose. Slide the hands forwards and wider, and let your forehead come down towards the mat. If it doesn't quite reach, then just keep the ears in line with the biceps. And breathe, just having a stretch into the upper back and chest. If the forehead comes down, that's fine. You can let your bottom stick out a bit. Let your heart melt down. And then sliding those hands back in as you lift your chest back onto all fours. We'll take our right leg out straight to the side. So just slide it out so it's in line with the knee, the left knee. Turn the toes in a bit so they're either pointing straight forwards or slightly diagonal. And then we're going to bring in a little rock forwards and backwards. So finding maybe potentially a little bit of stretch in the inner thigh. Doesn't matter if you don't feel anything. Think about hugging baby into spine a little bit as well. We're not letting that lower back dip. Coming into the center, walking the hands in, and think about drawing baby right into the spine as you stand up on that left knee. So we're going to come into gate pose. Right arm slides down the right leg and left arm up and over into a side bend. If you feel tired, you can just place the hand on the back of the head. That can just take out a little bit of the effort. And think about really lengthening down this left side. Breathing deep. And then coming all the way back up, we're going to turn ourselves to face diagonally towards that left foot and turn the foot around, the toes pointing away and the knees bent. So we're kind of in a lunge. That would be a lunge, but we're kind of in an open lunge, more of an open lunge. And your right hand on your right thigh, your left hand on the floor, and just a little bit of a sway or a rock here into the hips. See how that feels. If it's not great, if it doesn't work for you, then just come back to all fours and do cat-cow for another couple of rounds. And just in and out. So what we're doing is we're lengthening the pelvic floor and we're stretching into the hips. We're just going in and out dynamically, slowly, mindfully. Okay, lovely. We'll come back into the center. We'll walk our hands in front and we'll straighten that right leg like we had at the beginning. We're going to place all of our weight into our left hand. Yeah, yeah. And then reach up and open with the right. Nice deep breaths. A lovely open twist. If you like, you can bend the upper elbow, bring the back of the hand to the low back and use that gentle pressure to rotate the chest a little bit more. And then unwind, bring both hands back to the earth, step the right knee back in under your hips. Okay, let's take that on the other side. So that left leg coming out to the side, a little bit of a rock to start with, just a little bit forwards and backwards. And you might notice one side feels looser than the other. One side might feel a bit different, that's normal. All of this forward leaning stuff on all fours is really great for getting baby to be in a good position as well. So as you get towards the end of pregnancy, you start thinking about what position they're in. You want their back to your belly and the head down. So this gives them a bit of space to move, which is really what we want, to move into that position, and a gravity assists their spine to roll down towards your belly. Okay, coming back into the center, walking the hands in, baby to spine, so you draw them in as you rise up. And over into your gate pose, maybe bring the hand to the back of the head if that feels good. support yourself a little bit on your straight leg. You can really lift the muscles of this straight leg as well. You can kind of activate the thigh just to keep you nice and stable. And breathe. And then come all the way up. So we're turning to face the left diagonal. We're spinning the left toes around to face the diagonal. We're bending the knee. Left hand stays on the thigh, right hand comes to the floor, and then just rocking a little bit in and out here. I think I rocked too much in my pregnancy, and then Cleo would not be happy unless I was jiggling her about or rocking her. I think it was because I spent my whole pregnancy rocking, literally every day. I taught yoga and I just did loads of this. And then come back into the center, walk your hands around to the front, straighten that leg out to the side, and we'll do the twist on the other side. So that left arm comes up and open, big breath. You can keep the arm up or you can bend the elbow. Back of the hand just wraps around the waist at the low back, and then use that to just gently open the shoulder a little bit more. And then release, come all the way back round. Let's have a little pause in child's pose again with the knees wide. Sink the hips back, reach the arms forwards. Have any support that you like in this pose. If you have a bolster, it's quite nice to do this on a bolster in pregnancy. I'm sure that you've got one, Jackie. Nice deep breaths. Slowing the breath down, just relaxing here. Okay, when you're ready, sliding the hands in, pressing yourself up. Then tuck the toes underneath and come up to a forward fold. So rock forwards to tuck your toes and then rock back to lift your knees. Walk your hands in. Have your feet a bit wider than hip distance, and if it feels okay for you, you can have a little dangle. So feet need to be wide enough that bump will fit between the legs. If hanging or just draping the head down like that doesn't feel good, prop yourself up on your knees, bend the knees, elbows just come onto the knees and just kind of come halfway. But if it feels okay to dangle, you can just have a little wriggle, a little sway from side to side, which can be really nice on the low back, but doesn't always feel that great blood pressure wise. Get a little bit dizzy sometimes with our heads down. A couple more breaths wherever you are. And then if you've got your head down, you want to come up really slowly. So just start to think about bringing your hands to your legs and just walking yourself up, drawing baby to spine, uncurling the back as you come up to stand in Tadasana. Just give yourself a moment to adjust to being upright. We're going to come and stand towards the back of our mats. I'll take my socks off. With the feet a little wider than hip distance and toes slightly turned out. Bring your hands onto your hips, and then we're just going to take a few circles around. Keep the knees nice and soft and squishy, and just think about circling the pelvis however feels comfortable. And then we'll go the other way. And start small, see how it feels. You can always build it when you feel that your body's happy with the movement. Any twingy things going on in the pelvis, just keep it small, or just even a rock will be fine. And then slowly bring that back down into the center. Just come to stand for a moment in Tadasana. We'll let the hands come down by the sides. Think about rotating the upper arms in the socket so that the palms turn forward. So rather than just turning the hands forwards, Think about the upper arms rotating. So this inner upper arm is coming more forward. And you might find that that just activates the upper back and the shoulder blades a little bit more, and you feel like, oh, well, that's easier. And that can lift the chest and just make you feel a little bit stronger in the upper back. No tension in those hands at all. Imagine that there's a little hook in the very crown of your head. Someone's looped a bit of thread around it and they're gently tugging up. So you just grow a little bit taller from the crown of your head, but your feet are anchored into the floor. So the only thing that can lengthen is your spine. Think about baby, the belly being drawn in gently towards the spine and the tailbone sending it down towards the heels. So just get that sense of removing some of those deep curves to a certain extent from the back, or just kind of bringing us back into more of a neutral alignment. Just breathe there as you think about that lovely long posture. Let's roll the shoulders up to the ears, all the way back and all the way down the spine. And just do that a couple of times. Just because it feels really good and it just reminds our trapezius muscles to release the shoulders, stop holding on. As you do that, you could try wiggling your jaw as well. A little bit of a wriggle from side to side. And then we'll go the other way. So we'll circle the shoulders forwards, down, up, and forwards. And then come to stand back in Tadasana. There's quite a lot of connection between our pelvic floor and our jaw. So actually, let's just take a moment to give ourselves a little bit of a jaw massage. So with your three middle fingers just under your cheekbones, let your lower jaw hang kind of loose, and just massage in there. You'll feel the muscle. It's really can be quite tight and tender. Gently massage downwards, so little circles, but moving kind of down towards the bottom of the jaw. You can do that a couple of times. It can be quite nice also to just gently tug on the earlobes. So thumb and the index finger just pressing into the earlobes, just give them a little bit of a tug. Downwards and outwards. And wriggle the jaw. Okay, release that. Bring your hands to your heart center. We'll take a nice gentle sun salute, because really movement is the key to keeping your back feeling healthy. And if you do one thing every day, maybe it could be a sun salute in the morning, and that would really kind of get your back moving and wake everything up. So we'll just do a nice gentle slow sun salute. We'll inhale, sweep the arms up overhead. We'll exhale, bend the knees and fold over our legs. So nice and slow, nice and mindful. Walk the hands forwards. See if you can lower the knees together to the mat. Untuck the toes. Inhale to lift the chest and the gaze. And exhale to round into cat. Inhale to lift the chest. Come back to neutral in the low back. Exhale to round. Inhale. And then exhale, this time sending your hips back to your heels and coming into child's pose, or if you wanted to, a downward dog for a couple of breaths. So downward dog is an inversion. So if you're in the last few weeks of your pregnancy and you know baby's head down in a good position, just want to avoid too many inversions really, because it gives them a chance to come back up out of the pelvis and wriggle about and change position. You don't really want them to do that if they're already in a good place. It's really fine in the first trimester. In the second trimester, do down dogs if they feel good. Or you can take child's pose. If you're in child's pose, lifting up, walking the hands in, coming back to all fours, tucking the toes, and then walking the hands back towards you as you lift the hips. Send the heels down to the mat. Oh, sorry. Bring your hands up to, bring your elbows up to just above your knees and bring your palms together. And we're going to inhale and lift the chest. Exhale and round the spine. Inhale, lift the chest. Think about sitting bones widening. Exhale, round the spine. Think about sitting bones drawing together. Inhale, sitting bones widening, lift the chest. Exhale, round. Walking the hands up the legs as you inhale, come all the way up to stand. Circling the arms overhead. And then exhale, hands to heart center again. Let's do another one. Inhale, circle the arms. Exhale, bend the knees, fold all the way down. Walk the hands forward. Lower the knees to the earth. See if you can do them together. Untuck your toe. Inhale, lift your chest. Exhale, round your spine, and we'll have a little bit of movement on this one. Send your sitting bones back to your heels. As you inhale, come forward. Maybe keeping your chest a bit lower to the ground and then pressing up onto all fours with the strength of your arms. Then exhale, round the spine, sink back. Inhale.
Argentina and Buenos Aires.
Coming forward, sweeping cat. Exhale, round. Just do a couple of those. And then when you've had enough, sit back into child's pose or come back into downward dog. If you're in child's pose, you want to just change up the stretch a little bit. Lift your chest, slide your right hand through the gap between your knee and your wrist, quite high, so above your boobs, so that you're not squashing the boobs. Almost like you're doing thread the needle pose, but you're not going quite so much into a twist. You're just stretching the shoulder. And see if you can rest the head back down. And then lifting up, sliding that hand out in front, swapping over to the other side. So the left hand, back of the left hand, sliding over along the floor. And then relaxing back down on that shoulder. And for me, that really gets my shoulder blades, the rhomboids and the back, just gets them to really soften and relax. And then lifting up, stretching that arm back out in front. Then walking the hands in, tucking the toes, bringing yourself back into that forward fold. So feet a little wider than hips, elbows on top of the knees, palms to touch. Inhale, lift the chest, widen the sitting bones. Exhale, rounding the spine. Sitting bones narrow, belly to spine. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Good. On the next inhale, walking up the legs, rounding the spine, coming all the way up to stand nice and tall. Circle the arms overhead. And then exhale them all the way down to heart center. Oh, lovely. Okay. So let's come. I think we'll come back down to the floor and we'll just do a little bit more on the floor before we come into Shavasana. So feet a little wider than hip distance. Or inhale, circle the arms. Or exhale, bend the knees and come down. Walking the hands forward and bringing the knees down to the mat. Okay, I'm going to give you the option to do bridge pose on your back. Now Beth and Jolanta, you might not want to do this. It is fine to be on your back for a little bit if you don't feel any adverse effects. But sometimes when baby's a bit bigger and there's quite a lot of the uterus is quite big, the pressure of all of that can on your the venous return to your heart can make you feel a little bit dizzy. Just see how you feel. You don't have to do that. I'll give you an alternative. If everybody else feels comfortable on their backs, I think that's just Ruth and Jackie, you can come and lie down on your back with your feet fairly close to your bottom. So the alternative to this is to come onto your side, prop your head up on your hand and bring your knees together. So that, if that feels better for you, if you think, hey, I feel much happier doing this, then come and do this. Otherwise, you're going to come onto your back, heels close to the bottom. So my bridge people on the backs, think about pressing your lower back down into the mat and scooping the pelvis a little bit underneath you, and then pressing into the feet. Just gently lift the hips, keeping the pelvis tucking, lift the hips into the air. Think about coming up through the spine. Just take a breath at the top and then roll down through the spine, one vertebrae at a time. Keep the pelvis scooping under until each vertebrae above it has come down, and then relax the pelvis. If you're on your side, what you're going to do is just a few clams. So bring your knees up so they're more in line with your hips. Do I want to do that one? No, actually take your heels back so they're more in line with your bottom. I think we'll do that one. And then we're just going to gently lift the top knee, not too far, just a little way until you feel like the pelvis wants to move. That's too far. You just want to keep it small, and then lower the knee. So we're just lifting the knee and lowering the knee. So it's working on the glutes at the back of the body, the external rotators of the legs. My bridge people, you can just do a couple. If you feel okay on your back, it might be quite nice to just hug the knees in a little bit, with the knees a little bit wide, so kind of heading towards the armpits, and have a little rock across the low back, because, oh, don't you miss lying on your back in pregnancy? My oyster people, I never know whether they're clams or oysters. I suppose oysters is more exotic, isn't it? You could now try gluing your knees together and just lifting the foot a little bit and then back down. So again, you want to keep the movement small enough that the pelvis isn't moving, but this is just going to work on the internal hip rotators, and just take it easy. And you'll probably do about 8 of these and 8 of the other ones. And then when you've done 8 of those ones, you're going to roll yourself all the way over to the other side. My bridge people, why don't you guys now come over onto your right hand side and just rest. And everybody who's doing the oysters, come over to the other side. Make sure your heels are in line with your bottom. We do about 8 of the knees opening, nice and slowly, nice and controlled. And then 8 of the foot lifting. Rolling around here. Okay. All right, so everybody lying on one side, and you're going to prop yourself up on your elbow so that your body is lifted. So try not to let the body relax down towards the mat. Try and lift this side of your body up so you're in a straight line. And that might be enough, especially if this arm feels like it's taking a lot of weight. And you want to see if you can keep the neck kind of in line with the spine, so rather than hanging it down. Your left hand is going to be just resting on your thigh. And just see how it feels to lift the hips, if you can, up away from the floor and lower them gently back down. It might be too much. If it's too much, don't do it. You can take the top arm up, or you can even take it overhead and then all the way back down. So this is going to be working on the shoulder and the arms, also going to be working on the muscles that support the sides of the body, and maybe just giving them just a little bit of work to strengthen them up. And it's just as important to lower down slowly as it is to rise up slowly. I'm going to do again about 8, but 6 is fine, 3 is fine. Don't overdo it. If you've had enough, just rest on your side and just wait for us to join you in Shavasana. Okay, I don't know how many we are on, but I'll take that as about 8. And then we're going to roll onto the other side. So you can come over through lying on your back and roll yourself to the other side, or you can come up, come over to the other side, whatever feels better. Okay, so I'm just thinking about lifting the lower ribs and the side waist a little bit up and away from the floor. We're having the elbow directly under the shoulder, and then we're just lifting the hips and maybe reaching the arm, and then slowly returning to the floor. So I quite like to probably exhale on the effort. So exhale up, inhale down. That's probably about enough. And then when you're ready, we're going to come down into Shavasana. So if you want to lie on your back and you're in second trimester and you feel okay on your back, you can lie on your back. Otherwise, it's left-hand side. Pillow underneath your head. Pillow between your knees, ideally. Maybe bunk supported with a blanket. Whatever you've got to make yourself super comfy. So come on down. If you are lying on your back, support your knees. So you could have a cushion or a bolster under your knees. Or you could bend the knees, feet to the floor, and let them knock in towards one another. And that will take the pressure off the low back. So lying on your back in pregnancy, there's quite a lot of scaremongering, I would say, about it. And that is because if you're there for a long time and you're in a sort of fairly advanced stage of pregnancy, the pressure of the baby can press on the blood flow back to the heart, and it can lower the oxygen in the blood, and it can lower the oxygen to baby. So you don't want to be here for like half an hour. But you know, when you're quite early on in your pregnancy, and if you don't feel dizzy at all, and if you're only here for a few minutes, it's fine. And the best place to lie is actually on your left, because that takes the pressure off that vein that returns to the heart. But it also, if you can get baby to lie their back to your belly, but on the left hand side, that's the ideal position for birth. So as you get closer to the end of your pregnancy, the more you can lie on your left hand side, the better. So just settling in, having a little fidget to get a bit more comfy if you can. When you're ready, take a nice deep inhale and let it go with a big sigh through the mouth. And let it go. Breathe in, filling up with breath. Breathing out with a sigh. Letting everything settle and sink down into the earth, into the support beneath you. And sometimes in pregnancy, especially when things are a bit tough and we're a bit uncomfortable, tired, etc., it's really hard to find the good. It's really hard to focus on the positives. We're just going to do a little gratitude meditation here. I want you to bring to mind someone that you feel really grateful for. It could be a family member or a friend or your partner. It could even be an animal, dog or a cat. Someone who you know that you can rely on, whatever it is that they give you, you really value that. Bring that person to mind. Sometimes it's hard to just think of one, but see if you can focus on one person. And just see that person in your mind's eye, happy, smiling, relaxed. And as you look at them, as you gaze on them, see them smiling and happy and relaxed, just bringing to your mind all the things that you feel grateful for in relation to them. Without overthinking it, we're not kind of creating a story, but just thinking, yeah, they're there for me, I love them a lot, they listen, whatever it is, just having that feeling of gratitude towards them. And then let that go. And then I want you to bring to mind something that happens in your day that you feel really grateful for. So it could be your warm shower in the morning or your bath in the evening. The fact that we have hot running water, so I always feel grateful for that every day. It might be a lovely tea that someone sent you, or a program that you're really enjoying that kind of takes you away from everything and just gives you that bit of a break. A walk that you go on, something in your day that you feel really grateful for. And just immerse yourself in that experience. What is it like to be doing that thing? How does it make you feel? Just in that moment to focus on those positive feelings of gratitude, that is available to you. And then just let that go. And see if you can bring to mind something in the wider world that you are grateful for. So it could be pregnancy yoga. It could be that simple, something that you've kind of has been a really nice thing for you to do. It could be that now you can go and have coffee in a cafe and actually sit inside out of the rain. It could be that, I know the weather's not great at the moment, but there has been some nice bits of sunshine. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's that we are heading into summer. You're going to have a baby soon, and you're going to have a spring summer baby, so you'll be able to get out and about. That will be lovely. Just whatever in the wider world that you feel grateful for. Maybe it's supportive people at work, or a really great pregnancy outfit that you bought, anything. And just take a moment to immerse yourself in that feeling of gratitude. How that makes you feel that you have that in your life. And then let that go. And then lastly, we're going to bring our attention right the way back into our baby or babies. And again, that feeling of gratitude that they have chosen you, that they have chosen now to be here, that you have been able to get pregnant and carry a child. Whatever it is that makes you feel grateful for them and your ability to create life. Just really focusing on those positive feelings, those gratitude, feelings of thankfulness that you have towards your baby or babies. Just sending down some of that gratitude, some of that love into your womb space. And feeling that emotion, so allowing that emotion to wash through your body and through your baby's body as well. And suffusing both of your bodies with that positive feeling. You may see it as a colour, it may just be an emotion. And then when you're ready, you can let that go as well. Let that focus go and just come back onto your mat, into your body. Noticing the shape you're in, the room that you are in. And if you want to just stay here a little bit longer and dwell in this space, then by all means don't come out, just stay here until you're ready to move. But if you want to come back, just start allowing the breath to be a little deeper. Start to bring a little movement back, wriggling the toes, wriggling the fingers, moving the joints, the wrists and the ankles. And then having a little wriggle, a little bit of movement, a little bit of a stretch, however feels good for you. If you're on your back, rolling over to your left-hand side. And gently pressing yourself up to a seated position, take your time. And come to sit comfortably, maybe up on a cushion. Bring one hand to your heart space, one hand to your baby, and just take a moment to tune in to how your body feels now. You're just noticing sensation, noticing breath, noticing energy, and that may have zonked you out, or you may feel a little bit more enlivened now. And bringing your hands together at your heart space, palms touching, and bow your head. So thank you so much for your practice this evening. And hopefully see you next week. Thank you so much, ladies. Well done. Take it off. Record.